Okay, so this evening we are pleased to welcome Nina Carr, who uses she, her pronouns. She is a recent past board member and a volunteer of 5 years with the Frederick Center. She currently co-chairs the Community Services Committee, which supports the many direct service programs provided by the organization. Outside of volunteerism, Nina's career has centered on preventing and responding to intimate partner violence, sexual assault, child abuse, and human trafficking. She is currently employed with Hood College, leading a capacity building grant project focused on these issues. In addition, Nina is a graduate student pursuing master's degrees in business administration at Hood, as well as a public health at Johns Hopkins. Our other speaker, we're pleased to welcome back, Clare Madrigal. She also uses she, her pronouns. She has been an emergency room nurse for 13 years and serves as the LGBTQ plus resource nurse for 2 Johns Hopkins Medicine hospitals. Claire is also an emergency nurse at Frederick Health Hospital. As board member of the Frederick Center, Claire provides education and advocacy to the Frederick County LGBTQ plus community. Thank you, Nina and Claire. Take it away.
All right, as I pull up our screen here, I just wanted to share some slides with you all for visual effect. Oops, wrong one. Can you all see my screen? Okay, fantastic. So Nina and I are with the Frederick Center. Thank you so much for having me back. It was so nice talking with you all last time. Everyone was so welcoming. And since the last time, I wanted you all to know I've become a Common Market member. I'm very excited about that. So I'm excited to get the osmosis water and all of your vegan food. So the Frederick Center is a 501c3 nonprofit here in Frederick County. And our goal here is to serve the LGBTQ plus community in any way we can. So we do that with advocacy, with education, and in large part with our support groups, which we have built up quite a bit, even since the last time we spoke. So we're going to go over all of the things that the Frederick Center offers. And, you know, all of our groups are currently still virtual. So we have a lot of folks from outside Frederick County at the moment. And then we will see what happens, you know, after we meet in person again. Nina, I'll let you start.
Yeah, sure. So some of the groups that we're most known for are our youth groups. So we're going to start off by kind of parsing out our different youth groups. We initially had a youth group that still remains today. That's for folks age 14 to 18 years old, and it's for LGBTQ plus youth all inclusively. And that meets the second and fourth Wednesday of every month. We also expanded to have a youth group junior to really capture the needs of youth who are younger than that group. So we started that, I want to say, maybe a year and a half ago now, and that is for youth ages 9 to 13. They meet weekly. Parents can accompany them to the group. Often parents maybe start to accompany, but then, you know, see that their child is doing okay and kind of let them have that space and have that community with other kids who are maybe exploring the same things that they are, questioning their gender identity or exploring their sexual orientation. But these groups are also a place for community. They talk about hobbies, they talk about interests, they talk about school. Certainly they've talked about how they're coping with everything that's been going on over the last few years. So even though these are groups for children who are LGBTQ plus, the topics really span and are driven by what the youth really feel like they need. And that group meets Wednesdays from 5 to 6:30 p.m. So right before the youth group. We also expanded again. So we have our young adult group, which is for folks ages 18 to 25. That is topic driven, activity driven, but also we bring in speakers as well. I know we've had a speaker more recently from our board who talked about employment and finding employment in Frederick and some job searching tips. So that also follows the needs that we see. And that meets weekly Mondays from 7 to 8:30 p.m. And pre-COVID, that group would meet up often at different locations as well so that they could really get out and be social together. And then we also have services specifically for the transgender non-binary community to meet together in community. So our first group that we started was the transgender non-binary group, which meets the first Wednesday and third Thursday of the month from 7 to 9 p.m. and is led by a trans-identified facilitator. And that group, I want to say we have, maybe now that virtual services has really expanded our reach, we have maybe like 50 or 60 folks who are actually enrolled and registered. They don't all show up at once, but it's a great community that people keep coming back to, sharing resources, referrals, tips about services that we're affirming in the community, helpful. And also it helps us identify needs that we can advocate for in Frederick and beyond.
And so in addition to those groups, something that we've recently added, having resources for some of our gender diverse folks, things like binders and such that make them feel more affirmed in their gender identity. We've been offering those to those that need assistance with paying for that. So when you do donate to the Frederick Center, know that your money goes towards helping those folks get some of those items that they might not be able to afford, or their parents might not be okay with it, or they're not sure yet and they're just exploring their gender identity. So it's really awesome that we've been able to help a couple folks out recently, which we kind of added to this last year. And then so we've added a slew of trans specific groups for care partners and teens and such. And this is in partnership with Maryland Center for Gender and Intimacy. For those of you who know Kate McShane, wonderful human being, she runs that therapy practice, and she's recently added, is it three therapists to her practice? I think it's 3, maybe it's 4.
I think actually 4 now. She had 3 that she started. Yeah, so they're expanding quickly.
Yeah, the needs for especially therapy and mental health services for LGBTQ folks, and especially for our transgender population, are wild. Like, there's no one doing these services from the mental health aspect all the way to like the physical health aspect. Just yesterday, someone was asking, which doctor should I go see as a transgender person? And to be honest, there's not really many people in Frederick that offer, very competent care. Obviously, everyone should be able to go to any doctor they want to see and get the care, but to go to someone where you feel comfortable and confident, that's a whole other story. So our trans groups have been really, really helpful, especially for family that are trying to support their loved ones. So Trans Family has been running a little bit longer. Kate McShane is the one who has been running that group for probably a couple years now. And that one meets on Saturday mornings. And she has, any parents, guardians, family that wants to support their transgender loved one. So that's a really great resource for trans parents that are like, just, I want to support my kid, I just don't know how to. This is a great group for that. Trans Partners is what the name says. It's for folks that are partners of transgender individuals. And so, a lot of folks that have been married for a long time or together for a long time, and then their partner comes out about their gender identity, that partner may or may not know how to support them. So this is a really great group where you can come together with peers that are going through the same thing and figure out how to best not just support your partner, but how to, support yourself in that situation. And Trans Teens is one of our other newer groups, and this is for trans teens ages 14 through 18. And this has been really helpful as well. Which one is it that Miles runs? I think it's Trans Partners. So we do have a trans identified person that does run the Trans Partners group. So that's so wonderful that we have, a trans person, a trans facilitator, a trans mental health provider that is able to provide those services. And let me tell you, that's hard to find as well. As someone who works in this field, it's really hard to find folks that, are like you. It's hard to find LGBTQ healthcare providers in general. So we're really, really proud to partner with them. Healing Pride. Do you want to talk about Healing Pride?
Yeah.
Since this is kind of your baby.
Yeah, sure. So Healing Pride is a collaborative group. At the Frederick Center, we always like to work collaboratively with other organizations in the community, just like Maryland Center for Gender and Intimacy. But this is a group that Hartley House and the Frederick Center collaborated on to really bring together the expertise of both organizations in serving survivors of intimate partner violence and sexual assault who are in the LGBTQ+ community. Hartley House, they have a slew of wonderful support groups, but sometimes, finding support and community for that specific experience, but in a very typically maybe cisgender heterosexual space just didn't really feel like it was getting at some of the unique experiences and needs that folks had. So we collaborate on that group. They're actually trying to start up another round of that group. So they're taking referrals, and folks can reach out to Hartley House directly, and they keep it under their service provision, which is really a high level of confidentiality that comes with all of the services they provide. So they do all of the intake, and so if you know anybody who might be interested, definitely, refer them, or at least plant that seed. Sometimes it's hard for people to reach out initially to request something like that.
Our most recent group, which we are really proud of, we've been trying to get this launched for, probably since before the start of the pandemic, is Recovering Pride. We just had our second group meet yesterday, and this is a group for folks that are dealing with substance use disorder. And so whether you're sober curious, trying to get there, trying to figure yourself out with recovery, this is a really great group. For those of you that were at my last presentation, I'm not sure if I mentioned that the LGBTQ+ community has the highest rates of substance use. So children, youth, and adults, all, we all have higher rates of using alcohol and drugs, usually to cope with our situations. And so recovery has not always been a very welcoming space for LGBTQ+ folks, especially folks that have other intersecting identities, if they're trans or if they're African American. Those spaces haven't always been welcome. So we are really proud to partner with Dolan International, who runs this group. And Joey is also one of our board members and is in recovery and is all things recovery all the time. So I cannot think of a better person to run this group. So if anyone that is dealing with substance use or curious about that, please refer them to our group because Joey's a great facilitator. Another thing that we do partner with is the Frederick County Health Department. There's so many acronyms. Frederick County Health Department, which is our besties lately. We've been working with them a lot, but we have had this long collaboration with them in regards to HIV services. And Ken Melnick has been running those services for years now. And so, we have been able to provide folks with HIV testing. If folks want to do it in the privacy of their own home, we can provide them with those test kits to do that at home, and then numbers to follow up with if they do, in fact, test positive. And so this has been a really great collaboration with the health department. And then at our last event last weekend, we had it was called Kings, Queens, and Vaccines. We had a vaccine event, and we also had the Frederick County Health Department there. They helped us with providing the vaccines, and they also helped provide HIV testing kits. So we actually did 10 test kits that day. So this has been a really great collaboration for anyone in the community. And Ken is a perfect person to help with this.
Yeah,
right.
So as far as our groups go, it's typically, as you look at all of those groups, a lot more than people recognize that we even have. We're really known, by and large, a lot of people know Frederick Pride, but know less about our services. But we also recognize that, this is a large community that we are attempting to care for as best as we can. So sometimes there are services that we're not providing, and we're always welcoming ideas and want to hear from the community, where the needs are. But we also know we have a certain capacity too. So we refer folks, especially if people are looking maybe for more of a social space, not necessarily something led by, a recovery coach or a licensed counselor or a social worker. We do know that people, we've referred to meetup groups to start a meetup group in Frederick, and then we can help promote that as well, just to get the word out so that people can connect. Sometimes that's simply what people are looking for, is just, in this large county of Frederick, I'm trying to find somebody else who I can connect with. And so Meetup is a great space to do that. We also are trying to get off the ground again, PFLAG. If you're familiar with PFLAG, it's parents, friends, and family of lesbians and gays, but I think it's much more expansive than that now. We used to have a group in Frederick that actually met the same time and in the same building as our youth group, and it kind of dissipated. And then we think that the pandemic, a lot of groups, even across the state, across the country, have struggled to keep up. So we're trying to help the community reinvigorate that. And so if you know of anyone, or if you yourself would be interested in joining a group like that, please do reach out to us so we can start to assemble those folks together to get that group going. And then Frederick Pride. We can't not talk about Frederick Pride. It is Pride Month. Happy Pride, everybody. Typically, the last weekend of the month, we're all out on the creek. It's usually like 95 degrees out. And I think Chris Fair said the last Pride we had in person was about 15,000 people who came through. So it's a very large event, not just for us, but for Frederick in general. And it's always such a beautiful time, rain or shine. It's a gorgeous day with tabling, nonprofits, food vendors, drag shows, speakers, events and activities specifically for families and kids. I think we've had face painting and henna. So this year we've actually moved Pride. We had to pick a date really early on and we weren't sure what the conditions would be. So we've moved it to October 3rd. So we'll be having that at Carroll Creek again. So save the date. I think time and more details to come. Claire, am I missing anything on Pride details?
That's pretty much it. There's always a need for volunteers. Pride is a whole monster in itself. We actually have like a specific group working on Pride because it is so all encompassing. If you've ever planned anything, like, how crazy that is. But to think of 15,000 people on the creek, I'm guessing it might be a little bit more this year. Who knows, depending on like vaccination rates and how comfortable people are. But the needs are there. People are desperate to have that community and have that Pride again. The closest thing we've had in June, DC did like a march and a mobile Pride situation. But this will be like, I think, one of the only Prides in like the state. So that's pretty exciting. So October 3rd, save the date. And if you are interested in volunteering in any capacity, sometimes it's fun to just stand at the entrance. That's kind of my favorite thing to do, is stand and greet people and hand out bracelets and just say happy Pride, welcome. And just everyone's so excited to come in, and you can see everyone's really cool outfits, which is the best part. So yes, if you are interested in that, there is a committee for that. We do have a Frederick Pride Facebook page, so you can go on there, and we also have an Instagram, and then you can connect with those folks via social, or if you need help with that connection, we can help you as well. But Frederick Pride is a really big deal that creates a lot of community and brings a lot of the local businesses, which we love to see, because we love to see who's out there supporting our community. I love to see all of the churches out there, because I have, a little bit of biases from previous experiences. And when I see these welcoming, affirming churches, I could cry. I can't even talk about it. I don't go to church, but it's just nice to see that from our community. It's really nice. We just had our drag show, and it was at the church. It was at ERUCC, which is like the most welcoming church in Frederick, in my opinion. So yeah, come to Frederick Pride. We would be happy to have you. In addition to our groups and Pride, we also run several subcommittees because we don't have enough to do. So we are actually an all volunteer board, if you can imagine. This is actually the first time that we've had a paid staff member. We have just announced our executive director, Chris Fair. That was announced last weekend at the event. So we're hoping that that's going to create a lot more resources and a lot more connections. But in that umbrella, we do have subcommittees that keep the machine going. One of those big things is My Baby, which is educational outreach, kind of what I did for you all last year, but on a broader scale. So usually about an hour to 2 hours, depending on what folks need. We actually just trained one of the local churches. So it's really nice to have that kind of request. It can be a local business that we had one not that long ago that was a hiring business. And there was about 120 people at that training. So we will provide training to anybody, any organization, any business. We do request a donation, but we will never say no if you cannot afford that donation. So if anyone, you think a business would be interested in that or is needed, we would be the person to reach out to. And we do tailor these trainings towards, whether it's a church or hospital or, you know, a bookstore, whatever the case may be, we try to make it relevant towards that group of folks. Marketing, we always need help marketing, and under all these subcommittees, we do accept volunteers. So if anyone's interested in volunteering, we can hook you up with the chairs for these committees. Marketing, as you all know, I'm sure, is a big feat. You know, you think it's just posting up a couple of things on Instagram and Facebook, but it is, you know, a big undertaking to make sure that you're staying on top of all your services and your events and getting the word out there. So marketing is always something that we need help with. And then we also have community partnerships, which is a really important piece of the puzzle for us. And this is a lot of coordination with our community partners, including our GSAs. And we've really done a lot of work lately, especially with our GSAs. We have a board member, our chair actually, Richard, and he is a teacher over with Frederick County Public Schools, and he's been kind of going through to each of the GSAs in Frederick County and saying, hey, we exist. You know, there's support for you out there after you graduate school and just outside of the school setting. It's great that a lot of the Frederick County Public Schools have GSAs, which are basically gay straight alliances. It's an LGBT group for kids. But a lot of them didn't even know that we existed. So that's what community partnership does. They say, hey, we're here, we exist, we have these services. So outside of the school setting, if you need to go to a support group or your parents need a support group, here are the services that we offer. So I was able to go to one of the GSA meetings one time, and it was really awesome. I think it was a middle school. And so the poise and the questions from middle schoolers, it's like nothing else. So it was really fun to go to those. And it's nice that we have someone on the inside like Richard, who is a school teacher, who knows like how to talk to kids and how to bring those folks, you know, and show them what kind of resources that we have. All right, so these are all the ways to get a hold of us. So we're on social media, we try to keep up. And then we have our website. The website's a little bit dinosaur age at the moment, but we are getting a new one and it's going to be very, very pretty. So keep an eye on that. But currently it is still very usable. This is where you're going to find a list of our groups. You go to programs and then there's a calendar of each program and what day they're on and how to get a hold of each of those facilitators to say you would like a link for a virtual link. And then general inquiries can go to tfc@thefrederickcenter.org, and then that is mine and Nina's email addresses. Last weekend at the event, we did announce that with a local philanthropist, we are going to be renting an actual physical space. So this is the first time in the Frederick Center history we're going to have a brick and mortar. So look for more details on that to come, but it's going to be open for most of the day if possible. We're going to have our groups there. We're going to have, you know, things available, resources if kids want to come and do their homework. They're going to have internet access and a computer lab and things like that. So we're going to try to create all of the things in this very awesome space. So please keep an ear and an eye out for that. All right, I think there were some questions in the, oh, yep, we're wrapping up.
Thank you both so much. Thank you again to Nina Carr and Clare Madrigal. We really appreciate you joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Thank you for all the work that you do.
Thank you. Thank you for having us. I've been a member for years, and it's nice to see some of the faces kind of behind, you know, all the mailers and referencing the board. So if these are public, I feel like I should probably pop back in sometime to be a responsible member. So thank you for having us.
Yes, everybody is totally welcome to join. Owners are encouraged to attend board meetings, and Food for Thought is open to anybody who wants to join us. So please do.
Great. Thank you.
Wonderful.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
All right. So that concludes the Food for Thought portion of the evening. If you are joining us for the board meeting, please stick around. We're going to move right into it right now. So in terms of tonight's agenda, does anyone have any changes? Okay. Just real quick, I want to note for Ashley, who is taking minutes, that we have Lynn Brantley joining us tonight, who is an owner and is interested in running for the board. Toby, are you an owner just interested in attending the meeting, or are you a potential board candidate? Okay, not sure, but it looks, oh, no microphone, an owner. Okay. If you have any questions or anything, you can feel free to type them into the chat, or if you had an owner comment when we get to that point, you could do it that way as well. All right, so quick check-in. Let's see, let's do a quick high and low, starting with your low. Annie, would you mind going first?
Not at all. No lows this week. My big high was catering an event for Jamie Raskin and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, which was fan-freaking-tastic.
Super. Libby, how about you?
I'll just keep with the high. It's a beautiful day. Love that, and maybe get a little sunshine after the meeting. Maybe.
We can hope. Zoe?
I'm unfamiliar with this portion of the meeting, but I think I get it. I'm not going to say any lows. There were no lows. But I don't really want to go after Annie. That's really unfair. But I took a wild, crazy writing class, and it unlocked wild and crazy ideas, and that was fun.
Great, thank you. I'm sorry, I just sort of dropped that on you. I forgot we didn't do it last month. Roman? Oh, you're muted.
Okay, the law will be, they took the Giro truck across the street that I used to go pretty much every other day for lunch. So that was a bummer. When they are back, definitely the best heroes I have tried. And the high will be, I received news from back home that my nephew is going to be carrying the flag for my country in the Olympics that starts sometime in July, whatever, something like that.
And there's a little bit more, Roman, tell the rest.
About him?
Yes.
Yeah. He have a pretty good chance of winning a medal. He have been, I don't know, like 3 times world champion in karate, all that stuff. So, and this is the first time that a sport goes into the Olympic. So he have a pretty good chance.
Super exciting. Thank you.
Amazing.
Yes, Libby just suggested a common market trip to the Olympics for support. Sounds like a great idea, Libby. Stephanie, how about you?
A low is, I think at last count, I have lost 5 eggplants and almost as many pepper plants to either the rabbits, the whistle pigs, or the deer. I'm not sure which. Untold number of sunflowers. And I, so now I went and bought some more pepper plants. I guess I'm going to try again. For a high, I have started a new part-time position, so I am working again, I guess. I suppose it's a high. I'm not 100% sure yet. Because I was hoping it wouldn't start until after Ty was in school, and so it started a little earlier than desired, but that's life, right? So yeah, just trying to balance motherhood and working again.
Exciting and stressful. Bob.
I don't have any of those either, and the high, I guess, is this great weather we're having.
Yes, thank you. John Clark.
I guess the low is had a flat tire the other day, so that's always a bummer. But the high is that as we are having this meeting, my son is getting his 2nd shot, so everyone in my household will be fully vaccinated, so that's good.
Yay. Evan, how about you?
I guess my low is I had some Earth Fare shrimp for dinner last night, and I got really sick this morning. But the high is that Wednesday of next week will be my last day before I retire.
Wow, big news.
I'm exhausted and am ready for it.
All right, thank you. Susan?
My high is, yeah, the weather is fantastic. This is reminding me of Colorado weather, so that's nice. I like to feel chilly in the morning when I'm outside watering my flowers and stuff like that. It's great. And yeah, my parents sold their house, so that's kind of my low, and I feel a little bit bad being so far away from them. They're in Colorado and just not being able to help.
All right. Thank you. Sarah?
Good evening. No lows to report. Just kind of chugging along, but the high would be that virtual school ended last week, so I did my last little stint with that, hopefully forever. And yeah, looking forward to the kids getting back to school and just having some fun this summer. Lots of pool time, stuff like that.
Great. Thank you. Ashley?
I'll stick with the no low and just chugging along. Hi, my daughter started summer camp at Lucy School on Monday, so we are having a really good experience there, and we're home with her now. So excuse me, but yeah, it's been a great time. So that's good. Finally out of the house after many months, all of it.
10 years. Thank you. Lynn, are you able to talk? Okay. If you want to interject at some point with a high or low, you're welcome to, and not if you don't. And same with you, Toby. I know you don't have a microphone, so it probably makes it a little bit more difficult. I guess I'd say my low is that we lost 4 chicks to 1 snake last week. So that was a bummer for sure, and always feels terrible. But the high is that Jason has been building us a really awesome greenhouse out of windows that we got from various people who were getting new windows in their house. So we've repurposed a ton of windows to make a greenhouse, and I'm really excited for fall when we can, you know, do salad greens and microgreens and stuff at a point that we might not have them outside. So that is exciting. All right, thank you all. I'm going to move on to the consent agenda. Anybody have anything to add or change with the May 27th minutes? Okay. So we have owner refunds today. We have the 4 that are on the agenda. 2 for moving, 1 is not using the benefits and didn't want the cost, and then the 4th one was unhappy with customer service. So gonna move on to the owner comment period. And Toby, again, as an owner, if you are here to make a comment, you can feel free to type it into the chat box, and we can respond that way. Or if you're just here to listen, that's fine too. I'm going to go ahead and move on, but I can always move back to that to give you a moment to type. For the monthly financials, Sarah, let me. All right, I just made you a co-host, Sarah. I'm assuming that you wanted to share, or I can, but.
Okay, you guys see that?
Yes.
So this is looking at last week's sales here. We actually had a pretty nice lift for the week. We climbed to 550 for both stores combined. We had been running, in the 520s and under for both stores. So nice little lift there, primarily due to OAD, I'd say. We've got more people coming in doing their OAD shops, but also the cafe's been lifting pretty steadily here at 7th Street. The cafe sales just continue to grow. Here, actually, last week we did 36,000, which was our highest week at 7th Street yet. So a lot going on with the cafe, a lot of customer activity there. So you can see it's a 40% growth over the prior year. And labor stayed in line, so that nice sales lift. Our labor as a percentage of sales was 17.7, and our sales per labor hour jumped up to 114. And we're seeing that the growth come from both an increase in the customer count and the basket size, as we would expect during an OAD month. One thing that's a little different this OAD than compared to the last one, which was February, is that we're now seeing more owners use the OAD here at 7th versus 85, whereas last February, or this past February, it was the reverse there. So I think more owners are drawing to this new location, which has lifted the sales here, but it's hard, with 85 because it's kind of peeling a little bit away from there. But Route 85 did still have a good week. They popped up a little bit too at 232. So they had been dropping down in roughly the 220s, but they had a lift there at 232, and 7th Street was at 318. This week so far is a little bit slower than last week so far, just these 3 days in. But with school having ended, I think maybe the vacations are kind of starting. People are starting to leave town, things like that. So still expect a fairly strong week. And we always do really well that last day of OAD, like everybody kind of floods us at the very end of the month. So expect that to happen with next week for sure. Are there any questions with that before I move on to the May month, please?
Looks like no.
Okay. So I pulled together May. I just posted it today, so I'm not sure if you guys got a chance to look at it, but we'll just roll through it. We had a lot of budget meetings this week, so didn't have much time to come up for air here. But here is May, and or I'm sorry, this isn't just May. This is 4th quarter to date, so it's April, May combined. But we've seen a little bit of stabilization with some of the expenses, but basically this is a non-inventoried month, as we won't do inventory at the end of June, so that'll get wrapped up for 4th quarter. But our personnel expenses have stayed in line. Wages at 18.4% compared to the budget of 19.1%. So we've kept wages in line. Benefits were taxes and benefits a little higher, and I mentioned this at the last meeting, but we had that increase in the payroll taxes. Rates have gone, increased for all organizations there. Occupancy, one of the ones we don't have a lot of control over with rent and common area maintenance and utilities and things like that, but that came in at 4.3% of sales compared to the budget of 3.7%. Operating expenses, we've been doing a pretty good job of keeping things in line there. So those are at 7% compared to the budget of 7.1%. And that's where a lot of our supplies and those expenses are. Administrative at 1.1 compared to 1. So, stayed in line there. Marketing expenses right on budget at 0.8% of sales. Governance, was just a little bit 0.2 compared to 0.1. I mean, not much there. I think it was just a difference in this ownership promotion. We did that we did that mailer that went out. I'm trying to describe that mailer, Susan. It was the it was the one specifically about becoming an owner, about our ownership program that we did through the Clipper magazine. Yeah. So
Yes.
that mailer was in this month. Then we did have some unexpected, maybe not totally unexpected, but miscellaneous income come through this month. So we had, which we normally get, the patronage rebate from NCG. We got this month, but it was a little bit higher than usual. So that I think was about $12,000. But then we also got a $30,000 non-compliance payment from United Natural Foods. And I think some of you on the board might be familiar with this because we have received this in the past. And basically, if our major vendor, United Natural Foods, if they're out of compliance with contract, and that's related to out of stocks or delivery issues, service issues, things like that, they're required to make a payment. So we did have quite a number of issues. Some of it was out of stock and some of it was just service related, where they would, send the Route 85, and drop the pallets here that were supposed to go to 7th, or excuse me, they vice versa. They would drop the pallets at the wrong store and things like that. So we did get a nice $30,000 payment for that, but that was definitely not without some pain and suffering to get that payment. But we did get that. So that is in this month. So at the end, though this is an estimated gross profit margin right now until inventory is counted, it's showing us ending with a 25,000. I do expect that to go down because I think the inventory will bring down that profit margin a little bit. But with that said, so year to date it comes in at negative 243. Balance sheet. We do see an increase in cash here. So a nice lift compared to the end of March. So 16% lift there. And one of the main differences that is coming from is our accounts payable. So I think I'd mentioned before that, when the post office really slowed down, we were faced with having to kind of pay bills faster to allow time for them to go through the mail. We were paying some ACH. We were juggling a lot of that. That's gotten back in line now. So now our days payable outstanding is, it's 21 right now, which is typical kind of normal for us. Like most of our large vendors, about net 21 to net 30 days. So that helped lift that cash back up basically. So that the change there in cash is really mostly coming from accounts payable and some other changes, but that's the big one there. I mean, we haven't invested in any new equipment or anything this quarter to date so far. That's the one big change that stands out. We've had some new owners, of course, so that's going to lift our, through equity, we'll have some cash gain from that. But no other big swings here other than the change in the accounts payable.
Anyone have any questions?
I just had a comment, just for those who weren't here when we started going through the process of purchasing and deciding final straw decision whether we were going to open the second store, and we were looking at some pro formas for income statements and where we thought we might be for each of the years. I just kind of pulled out like one of the pages just to kind of see what were we thinking we were going to end the year with, right? For comparison. And so we had a forecast of 630.21, and I guess this is dated November of 18, right? So this is a couple of years ago. But we were projecting a net loss of like 490,000. At that time, and obviously the sales we were projecting were 34 million. So the sales were a lot higher than what we've been able to do. But when we came down to bottom line, net income, net loss, it wasn't nearly as good as the numbers look, even though we have a loss. And I guess I just wanted to kind of add that as some perspective, because for those of us who weren't, or for those folks who were maybe not around, looking at a net loss for the year might be a little bit scary. So while the sales are not maybe where we were hoping, net income loss seems to be in the ballpark and not that bad compared to what we were looking at when we were making the decision to open the store. So thanks.
Thank you, Stephanie, for bringing all of that up. That's an excellent point. Anyone else? Okay, great. All right, thank you, Sarah.
You're welcome.
You had mentioned check signer change, but I didn't see anything in the drive. Are we still doing that tonight or not?
Oh, well, I didn't know. Well, okay, so I don't know if we need board approval to remove somebody, but
I don't think so.
Yeah, okay, then that's all we're gonna do right now.
Okay.
So just FYI.
I'm pretty sure like that. Yeah, that usually you.
Yeah, I thought when I was the secretary, I had to sign off on that.
When we just removed somebody or when we added somebody?
I thought we added somebody and
Right, so that's the difference that Sarah's talking about right now, because Max Smith is an outgoing
I see.
store manager. We want to they're going to remove him as a check signer, but they don't necessarily have somebody to submit
Okay,
the
okay.
replacement. So since
Yeah.
it's just a removal, maybe we can just enter it into the meeting notes as
Okay.
a thing.
Sounds good. Yeah, and then we'll likely come back next month with a recommended addition.
Great, thank you. All right. All right, moving on to GM monitoring. Ramon, how do you want to share this?
If you want to pull
You want me to share it? Do you want me to give you co-hosting? What's your preference? You're muted.
to mute. Okay, finally. No, you can pull this, Megan. You can put it in the screen.
Okay, give me 1 second to pull it up.
I didn't see it in the drive.
Yeah, you know what? It's not there, Ramon. Sorry.
It's in the 2021.
Okay, hold on.
Yeah. In the GM monitoring should be.
Gotcha. Okay, GM monitoring report.
B5.
B5. Got it. Okay. Let me go ahead and share my screen. And John, if you have a chance after we do this, if you could just move it over to the current month, please. All right. Okay.
Okay. First of all, thank you for everybody that answered the survey. Pretty much B5 is the board was surveyed to help determine that the GM is in compliance with this policy. 8 out of 9 board members completed the survey, and all their results are, below as we go through the report. In policy B5 is communication and consult to the board. The general manager should not cause or allow the board to be uninformed or misinformed in his work. So the in B5.1, submit monitoring data that is untimely, inaccurate, or hard to understand. The general manager will not do that. So the general manager will submit monitoring report according to the schedule defined at the beginning of the board year. Each report will include definition and interpretation that include measures that will be used to determine compliance. So below, you will see the chart. The end result was submitted on 9/10, was in full compliance. The staff and relation compensation benefit was moved to be presented on September 23rd. The B2 financial planning was presented on July 30th. so was in compliance. The B3 financial conditions have been presented 4 times on 7/30. It was not in compliance with net income and sales growth. In 10/22 was not in compliance with net income, sales growth, and labor. In 1/28 was not in labor and gross profit margin. And in 4/22 was net income, labor, and gross profit margin. I would say that a big part of that is the missing sale. That is a good contribution to missing that, but nevertheless, we are working in getting the better cost of goods discipline with new hiring in managers and organizational structure redefining. I think we're gonna get a little bit more consistencies in the performance. And what else? Before, it was presented on January 28th. It was in full compliance. B5 was presented in June 24th. It was in full compliance. B6, emergency management succession, was on 5/26, was full compliance. B7 was on August 27, was in full compliance of 2020. And B8 was on March of 2021, was in full compliance. So pretty much overall, 8 out of the 8 survey respondents in question number 1 was 100% compliant. Question number 2 was 100% compliance. Question number 3 was 7 compliance and 1 partial compliance. In question number 4 was 5 compliance and 3 that didn't understand the question and were not sure. On number 5 was 100% compliance. On number 6 was 7 compliance and 1 unsure. Number 7 was 100% compliance, and number 8 was 100% compliance. I attached the report later on so you guys can review it. It's also downloaded there. In the compliance, all reports were in compliance, but B3. Let me see. The next one is operational definition interpretation. We report any actual or anticipated non-compliance item in writing by the general manager report or by monitoring report, which has been done. The police notification anticipated and no actual compliance is below. I said the only non-compliance issue this reporting year were related to financial conditions, key indicators of gross margin, sales growth, and net income, and the board was informed through the monitoring report at the board meeting. 8 surveys responded that they was in compliance, that was presented. And that the data show compliance being presented. The only non-compliance, again, going back, is the B3. In 5.3, the general manager is responsible for providing information to the board that will help them assess their policy decision. Information will be provided in the following format. Report relevant goals and trends of the co-op through the supporting document presented in the monitoring of policy 2, be financial planning, industry resources such as cooperative grocers, and other items will be provided. In that we are getting better and starting to email the board about more industry related news, if to put it that way. Public events where subscription, newsletter, general manager writing reports, verbal updates to the board meetings, and occasional emails updating the board for any internal or external changes that require significant change in the operations. Data provided on B5.1 indicates the board have been informed. And the monitoring of policy B2 financial planning submitted on July 2020 includes sales history, labor, and margin data for the co-op and the budget and the goals for the current fiscal years. In addition, the report includes 5 years summarized projection for the income and the cash flow. Monitoring report for B3 financial condition have included key financial trends. The board rating via survey on that was 7 surveys responded, indicated compliance, 1 partial compliance. Data show compliance, yes. Withholding here opinion if the general manager believe the board is not in compliance with its own policy on board process or board general manager relationship, by bylaws, particularly in the case of the board behavior. The general manager is obligated to inform the board. In the past year, the board has been found to be in compliance with all his policies, which will indicate that there has not been any inconsistency from the general manager point of view. 5 surveys responded in compliance, another 3 unsure. It could be understanding the question or other reasons. In 5.5, deal with the board in a way that favors or privileges certain board members over others. The general manager will treat all board members equally. In that, the survey will also illuminate if there was a concern among directors. The data showed that there is no out of compliance reported on this, and the board rating in this survey was 8 survey responded indicated compliance. In the B5-6, failed to supply the board consent agenda, all decisions delegated to the GM yet required by law. Each meeting in the past year have included equity reforms as consent agenda items or any addition to the consent agenda during agenda review of the meeting, except in the month that there was no reforms, otherwise for owners, otherwise no new loans or bank accounts have been opened since the store opened, since the new store, the 7th location opened. 7 surveys responded compliance, 1 responded unsure. B57 provide the board with insufficient staff administration to support governance activities. The general manager responsible for providing logistical support to the board. The general manager will determine compliance through survey results. So in the question of administrative support to board through minute taking, the data show compliance. Coordinated and disseminated for the board, so it's prepared for meetings and retreat. Materials are available via Google site, yes. Logistics arranged for board meetings, retreats, and annual meetings. The annual meetings is coming soon, so we are working on that. So, and the board meetings have been there, so it's compliance. Nomination and election process coordinated as directed by the board. We are in compliance with that. We are promoting. Hopefully we will get enough candidates for the oncoming elections. Board records and archive maintained, including minutes, bylaws, and approved document. Yes. All 8 survey responded compliance on that. And the B5-8, the general manager will inform owners of board meetings, date and times, board events such as nomination, election, and owner fairs, and other board actions. We have been doing that through marketing have been a great tool doing that. Thank you, marketing. And responses on this posted in every newsletter, in Facebook, a newsflash, and through store signage, newsletter articles too. A survey responded indicated compliance on that. And below, in another attachment that I put there, you guys can check it, is the survey on the top. That one, yeah. That the survey monkey that we received. So all the responses are there, if you guys want to review it.
Does anybody have any questions on that?
I'd love to hear the comments, if there are comments. Unless it's going to take too long.
Well, I mean, there are several.
I can move it back into the current months folder after this meeting, and then I guess we can all review it in our time.
Okay. Thank you, John.
Okay. Yep. Thanks.
It's kind of a long survey where I would just read the comments, but okay. Any other questions? Does anyone want to move to accept that?
I so move.
All right, so that was Annie and Bob. Do you want to second that? Bob seconded it. All right, so all in favor of accepting B5? And opposed, speak up because I have to flip through all your faces. Okay. All right, so we'll go ahead and pass that. Just as a side note, I was thinking, and sort of this is addressed to John because hopefully you'll remember when it comes around next year, but I was thinking when we do our board monitoring conversation about the board GM relationship, what if we actually included the GM in that conversation as far as assessing how we're doing on that in a similar way that he is asking us. It's an idea. Okay, so we are at the point that I have us set up for a break. It's 10 after 7. I suppose we could take a quick break and then power through the rest of the meeting. We are ahead of schedule. So why don't we, actually 7:08, why don't we meet back at 7:18 if that works for everyone? All right, see you then. Thank you.
Ella, you want to eat?